one of the challenges that we face as writers is that these days we spend a lot of time watching moving images. Even if you're quite a prolific reader, then there's a good chance that you'll spend more time in front of film than in front of text. You're watching a film right now. And when we come to write prose narrative, we are often influenced by the mode of narration that dominates cinema. And narrative in cinema is actually quite limited. Unless you use voiceover, then you're restricted to having the actors act it out. You're restricted to mimesis. And I've spoken elsewhere about the limitations of the cinematic mode of narration and all the wonderful alternatives that are open to prose writers. Today I want to look in particular at beginning a story or beginning a novel, because the ways that novels begin and the ways that films begin are very different. Have a wee look at the opening to the movie Hannah. So as we watch this, we've no idea what's going on. I mean, there's a girl here, she's wearing animal skins, hunting a reindeer with a crossbow, but is this taking place in a fantasy world, in a prehistoric epoch? We really have no idea.
I just missed your heart.
Now later on we learn that she's living off the grid in northern Finland because her dad's a ex-CIA operative who's in hiding, you know, that old chestnut. But at the start we've no idea what's going on. We don't know who this little girl is or where she is or why she's hunting a reindeer with a crossbow. And that's not really a problem, because we've got the visual interest, we've got the beauty of the cinematography to distract us. Plus, nothing ever happens in the first 5 minutes of films. Nothing happens because people come in late. They're busy taking off their coats and messing around with their popcorn. So you don't want to put key plot information in the first 5 minutes because it gets missed. Plus, you know, if you've bought a ticket for the cinema, you're not going to walk out just because the setting's not unclear after a few minutes. But beginning a novel is really different. If you tried to begin a novel, something like a girl crouches in the deep snow, hiding amid the frozen Sitka spruces. She is wearing animal skins, watching her prey. A reindeer pads through the snow. It is a still and frozen landscape, but birds are singing in the distance. The girl tenses her bow and fires an arrow into the side of the reindeer. Panicked, the beast starts to run. It runs into the open tundra and the girl gives chase. Then the beast slows, its footprints mark a trail in the snow. The reindeer staggers and keels onto its side. The girl catches up and pulls the arrow from the reindeer's side. She lowers the scarf from her face. "I just missed your heart," she says. Now, by this stage, your readers are probably getting a wee bit fed up. They're thinking of putting the book down. They're like, who is this girl? Why is she hunting a reindeer? Where is this taking place? When is this happening? They need to know these things in order to be able to make sense of the narrative, and the urgency to convey that information is much greater than it is in cinema. So in prose fiction, you normally have to inform the reader who the characters are, what the story is about, where the action's taking place early on. So most novels don't start in mimesis. They don't start with the characters acting out a scene. A really good example is Richard Ford's novel Canada. It begins like this. "First I'll tell about the robbery our parents committed, then about the murders which happened later. The robbery is the more important part, since it served to set my and my sister's lives on the courses they eventually followed. Nothing would make complete sense without that being told first. So you've got to tell us what the story is. You've got to tell us why this is going to be interesting. And then you've got to give us enough information about the characters, where they are, what they're doing, when this is taking place. I sometimes think that opening a piece of short fiction is a wee bit like placing a Lonely Hearts ad. Lonely Hearts ads were what people did before Tinder. And so I've been looking at some Lonely Hearts ads just for research purposes, obviously. Here's some of the best and worst Lonely Hearts ads ever placed. Bitter, disillusioned Dundonian, lately rejected by long-term fiancé, seeks decent, honest woman if such a thing still exists in this cruel world of hatchet-faced bitches. Minimalist seeks woman. List your 10 favourite albums. I just want to know if there's anything worth keeping when we finally break up. Practical, forward-thinking man, 35. I've divorced better men than you and worn more expensive shoes than these, so don't think placing this ad is the biggest come-down I've ever had to make. Sensitive female, 34. Buying me dinner doesn't mean I'll have sex with you, though I probably will have sex with you. Divorcee, 48, with fish fetish, seeks like-minded female. No weirdos. Single male, 56, would like to meet sexy blonde female, 18 to 25, must be very attractive and own car. And at the opposite end of the spectrum of expectations. Aberdeen man, 50, in desperate need of a ride, anything considered. Ideally, a Lonely Hearts ad should make the advertiser sound interesting, but it also needs to convey key information. How old is the person? What sex is the person? Where do they live? What sort of person would they like to meet? And you've only got one paragraph in which to do this. And starting a prose fiction is kind of similar. You have to hook the reader's interest, but you also have to give them key information. So Richard Ford starts off by telling us that the story is about the narrator's parents and how they committed a robbery and were involved with murders, and they were ordinary people. And this is interesting, right? We're hooked. And then he goes on to tell us, my father, Bev Parsons, was a country boy born in Marengo Country, Alabama in 1923 and came out of high school in 1939, burning to be in the Army Air Corps. So he begins to give us the information that we need to make sense of the story. And it's only much further into the novel that he goes into a dramatic scene, that we see the characters act the story out, and he tells the narrative through mimesis. So if you do want to think in terms of cinema, then I'd suggest you consider starting your prose fictions in something a bit like a voiceover. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your writing.